Old school online security trusted everyone who got inside. Zero Trust says, nice try, prove it. Hackers hate this plot twist. This is Intellectual Point. We help you get a high earning career in tech. Zero Trust flips the script. No one's safe until verified. Perfect for our remote work, cloud crazy world. Security architects build this trust no one fortress. IAM specialists play gatekeeper with least privilege rules, and network admins chop systems into VIP-only zones. A real-world example, Google's BeyondCorp ditches VPNs, making every user, device, and connection flash an ID badge. No sneaking in for cookies or data. It's paranoia with a paycheck. Let's hear more from Steven.
What is Zero Trust? Setting up IP cyber as Zero Trust is what we're going to do here. This is an organization that adopts a security model where no user, device, or system is inherently trusted. There's no inherent trust in this organization. It's a security model that operates on the principle of never trust, always verify. Most of you have likely have heard something like this, trust but verify, or this is never trust, always verify. Unlike traditional security models that assume everything inside an organization's network is safe, Zero Trust will not do that. It says everything in the network could potentially be untrustworthy. So key concepts of Zero Trust. Number one, never trust, always verify. Every security control that we implement at this enterprise will be done so as if nothing is trustworthy, and we must have full accountability 100% of the time. Number two, least privilege access. In a Zero Trust model, users are only able to access the bare minimum of what they need in order to do their job. So if I get a cashier that comes in, they will only be given cashier accesses. They will never be given bagger accesses or manager accesses and so on, right? That is what that means. That's what least privilege is. It's assigning employees the minimum acceptable accesses in order for them to conduct their job. No more. So a Zero Trust will have least privilege in it as well. Three is micro-segmentation. Now we're going to get into this later as well, but instead of relying on a single perimeter defense, Zero Trust involves dividing the network into smaller segments. So we're going to talk about networking and infrastructure later, but if you think about networking, think about it as a group of computers talking to one another. The same way we're talking to one another now, if I was in a classroom, there'd be a group of us all talking about the same concept, right? We'd be talking, learning about Security Plus. That's what a network of computers are. It's a group of computers that have come together and they're all talking about the same thing. Now, microsegmentation is a concept that takes different perimeters that we set networks up as, or those groups of computers, and it breaks them down into microsegments so that we can secure those different microsegmented areas in different ways. We can implement different security controls and security plans based on those different microsegmented areas. It limits the lateral movement for attackers and isolates sensitive data and resources, even if the attacker breaches one segment. So basically, it's a way to set everything up so if an attacker gets into one area of the network, they still can't get into all of the areas of our network. Whereas monolithic or traditional architectures for networking means if they were able to get into one, they could easily get into all the rest of the computers as well. We don't want that. Zero Trust says microsegment. In other words, put a fence around every device and computer in your organization. That's microsegmentation. Number four, continuous monitoring and validation. This just means that we're looking at everything all the time. We are constantly looking. We're using security systems. We're continuously monitoring. Our people have eyes on glass. They're looking at security alerts and security incidents. They're watching software that's monitoring the entire company. They're doing this around the clock. Another big factor is Zero Trust. You will be always looking at your company. Number five, identity and access management. This is authentication and authorization are central to Zero Trust. Identity and access management is a way to achieve that, okay? This is a way to control, it's basically a model that we can use to control access permissions and users' roles, behaviors, and context, the device they're using, their location, and the time of day, i.e. multi-factor authentication. This is just a way to manage users in our organization, their identity and their accesses. What accesses do they have? And last is 6, device trustworthiness. Devices attempting to access corporate resources are also verified. We treat them a lot like humans. They must be authenticated. They must be authorized. they will be held there. There's an accounting feature there as well. We want to make sure they're secure, compliant, and not compromised. We even go as far as to make sure that we scan them before they come into our network to make sure they are trustworthy. This may include endpoint detection and response systems, which we'll talk about later as well. Device health checks, kind of like that COVID pre-screening we had. I don't know how many of you remember the COVID pre-screening. Before in COVID, when you walked into a building, you might have had to fill out a form saying you don't have any COVID symptoms. And if you did, you weren't allowed to come in, right? It's the same thing. We can do that to devices as well. There's a specific process we use for that. And we check whether devices have the latest security patches. We want to make sure they're updated. We want to make sure they're healthy before they come into the network and they talk to these other computers, right? That's what zero trust is. Now, if your company is doing that, that's a really good thing. But remember, this is maximum security. That's what we're talking about here. And remember we talked about the CIA triad. If there's a company going zero trust, there's a chance that their security is as high as it can be. It's going to affect availability. You think about zero trust, if you have an employee coming into your organization, they're going to have to come in through the front door. They're going to have to authenticate. They're going to have to get authorized. They're going to have to do all these security steps, and they have to do that every time they come in. That's going to affect their availability to work, isn't it? Right? So think about it like that. That's a general idea of how you can think about security, amplified security, reducing availability. It happens to computer systems as well.
Do you want to lock down networks like this? Come to Intellectual Point. We have live instructor-led training and on-demand training for cybersecurity and AI courses. We will help you launch your career in IT. Thanks for watching, and I hope you like and subscribe to Intellectual Point.